Welcome to On the Vineyard. I'm Monica Brady-Meyerov, the publisher of the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Crane Appliance. This week, the island was rocked by the arrival of Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents who used unmarked vehicles to pull over cars and work vans to detain and arrest people ICE says are undocumented immigrants.
And what they saw was people stopping drivers and questioning them about their paperwork. These were masked officers in unmarked vehicles.
More on that story in a moment. But first, Memorial Day celebrations dominated last weekend, including the annual parade in Tisbury from the American Legion Hall to the Oak Grove Cemetery to put wreaths on the plaques commemorating fallen soldiers. There were 450 American flags placed throughout the cemetery. Veteran David Berube spoke before the crowd, noting the historic anniversary of the American Revolution.
And for 250 years, the men and women of our nation's military have assumed that responsibility as the frontline guardians of America's hard-won birth. They, or should I say we, in a more unique way than any other, have known what it means to pledge our lives and fortune and sacred honor to our fellow citizens.
Memorial Day is the traditional kickoff to the season. Can you hear my air quotes? Seasonal visitors and residents are back. Behind the Bookstore is open, Nancy's is open and serving dirty bananas, and colorful boats are arriving in Oak Bluffs Harbor. It's amazing how one weekend can change the character of a place. What was once a sleepy seaside town with few boats comes alive in the span of a weekend. What also kicked off this week is the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the release of the movie Jaws. The Martha's Vineyard Museum opened its new exhibit, Jaws at 50, A Deeper Dive. It has a replica of Bruce, the mechanical shark, as well as many exhibits dedicated to the film's production on Martha's Vineyard. A warning here, I'll be talking a lot about Jaws in the upcoming episodes, as the Gazette prepares for a big festival for islanders who were in Jaws and fans coming to celebrate the anniversary. It all happens in collaboration with the museum on June 22nd. That's the sound of the historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Edgartown, printing the paper. That means it's time to go upstairs to the newsroom and check in with Bill Evell, the editor-in-chief.
Well, it had been rumored for the last several weeks, but it actually happened on Tuesday. Federal agents descended on the vineyard and arrested 40 people. That was both on the vineyard and Nantucket in a large-scale immigration raid. Ethan Genter was on the story and out in the field all Tuesday, checking in on what was happening and on the reactions both here on the island and at the State House. Ethan, you want to set the stage?
On Tuesday, officials from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement came to the island in the morning, apparently by Coast Guard boat. They started stopping what seems like a lot of work vans around the island. I talked to several people who had seen these stops. Some were right by the Rotary on Barnes Road. Other people saw them at Edgartown Vineyard Haven Road in Tisbury. And what they saw was people stopping drivers and questioning them about their paperwork. These were masked officers in unmarked vehicles, and not even the traditional unmarked Ford black SUV that we normally see for these things. And what we know is 40 people were arrested between the two islands. We don't know much more than that. Names have not been released. Further details about what these people allegedly have done have not been released by ICE, so there's still a lot unknown at this point.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the residents that were caught by surprise. It was the local police departments. They said that they didn't know this was going to happen. It was really just came out of the blue, correct?
Yeah, ICE did not talk to police that we know of here on the island. We talked to Police Chief Jonathan Searle over in Oak Bluffs, and he said he found out, like a lot of people on social media, as you can imagine, a lot of people started taking photos, and this really lit up Islanders talk all week.
Yeah, the photos were heartbreaking, all these different people arrested and handcuffed. And then you were at Menemsha for a while, and just the scene there of these people being put on boats, you'd see them sitting at the bottom of the boat and being taken off to the mainland.
Yeah, and quite a gaggle of people came out to look at what was happening and hurl insults at the ICE officers who were out there. One woman said, "You should be ashamed of yourselves." Another man was chanting Taliban at the officers. They didn't really talk all that much. They kind of just stood there and coming in and out of the Coast Guard Menemsha station. A Coast Guard official did come out and talk to the folks to explain, saying, this isn't really our operation. We're just been ordered to transport these folks on and off the island to where we don't quite know yet. ICE has not really said much about, like I said, the details. What we do know is ICE claims that one of the people was a member of the MS-13 gang. Another one was a sex offender. They haven't provided any documentation to really substantiate all of these claims, but we're still seeing, how this all unfolds.
Yeah, and there was pushback on the ground in Menemsha, you said, and various other places. There was also protested Vineyard Haven Terminal and lots of stuff on social media, right, as islanders reacted to this, to their neighbors being taken away.
And we've seen a lot of public officials come out, from select board members to our state senator and all the way up to the governor. Governor Maura Healey weighed in this week and said, I want to know more. We should be told about these kind of things and know what's going on in our communities. There was concerns about masked officers who you don't see a badge or anything, taking people and to undisclosed locations. So she's been asking for more information as well. And this seems like it's kind of a new strategy we're not used to seeing here on the island. Yeah,
in the past, they've sort of, if they were going after a certain person who might be a criminal element, they would be a targeted force, right? This was just a mass sweep.
As far as we know, they could say that these people all had criminal charges against them pending. We just don't know at this point. But yes, in the past, what we've seen is usually a person or two, they come specifically to come for them. This seemed different. This is kind of a shift that some immigration lawyers had told us they've seen over the last few months. But, we talked to one person who they stopped him and they said, "I have a green card." And they said, "Okay," and let them go. So it didn't seem like it was quite particular to certain individuals. In Nantucket, it was reported over there that people were stopped and they said, "Oh, we have the wrong car, wrong person." So it doesn't seem as targeted as in the past.
And of course, this is part of a widespread tactic that the Trump administration is using all over the country. This is just the first time we saw it here. Were you able to talk to people in the Brazilian community to get their reaction?
Yeah, as you know, we've got a large immigration population here on the island, and folks both in the schools, and there was supposed to be a Brazil festival, cultural festival at the Ag Hall this weekend. They raised a lot of concern and said there's this climate of fear is what someone had told me. And it's kind of cast a pall. The school teachers have said students have been missing classes during finals week. The Brazil Cultural Fest that was supposed to take place was canceled out of concern, A, for people's safety, and then B, is it really a Brazilian Culture Fest if there's no Brazilians attending? So there was a lot of concern there, and they've said, we're going to postpone to the fall, see where the temperature of the island is at.
And island faith leaders put out a letter this week. About 20 signed on to a letter decrying this act. Now, what happens next? There's just so much mystery. It came out of nowhere, and we don't know where everybody's gone. Do we know, are they going to keep coming here? There's going to be more raids? Do we know anything yet?
As you can imagine, ICE doesn't really talk to us that much, and they, even when they have talked to us, they don't televise, what their plans are. They don't tell people they're coming ahead of time, so we don't know. Conceivably, yes. It seems like for now it's probably stopped just because they put out a big statement about it all. It seems unlikely that it's probably a costly and multi-agency operation, so it's probably difficult to coordinate for them. But, we never know. Like I said, they don't exactly explain what's going on very well.
All right. Thanks for covering a difficult and still evolving story.
You can read more on these stories and all the news for free at vineyardgazette.com or subscribe to our free newsletter, The Broadsheet. This weekend, the island will come together to remember a man who contributed so much to the character of Martha's Vineyard and who spent his life in service to the island. Ron Rappaport died suddenly on June 7th of last year. His daughter Julia wrote in the Gazette that her father championed three main things: preserving the character of the vineyard, pursuing a life devoted to the public good, and supporting and developing promising young people. His family has created the Ronald H. Rappaport Scholar Fund. As I mentioned, Memorial Day is a special time on the island and was marked by several events. At the Veterans Parade, there was a gun salute and taps. One of the most memorable events on Memorial Day for Marjorie Hancock Phillips, who died in 2016, was the annual March to the Sea.
On the last school day before Memorial Day, Tisbury School parades, grade by grade, from the school down through Main Street, down to the waterfront. And they all carry flowers that they've brought from home, usually lilacs. I cannot smell lilacs anywhere, ever, without remembering that Memorial Day parade. And we would march grade by grade down to Owen Park in Vineyard Haven and down to the dock and out and put our flowers in the water in memory of those who were lost at sea. And then we would come back up and have a little ceremony around the flagpole, and then we're dismissed. They still do that today. See my own grandchildren in that parade, tears just go down. I mean, it's just very touching for me to see that again.
That's an excerpt from a 2009 interview with Lindsay Lee from the Martha's Vineyard Museum. This event still takes place with island schoolchildren the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review and tell a friend who loves the vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Crane Appliance, where you have access to an extraordinary range of premium appliances with best-in-class service and expertise. Crane Appliance, they call the Cape and Islands home. I'm Monica Brady-Meyerov. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week.